Welcome back to AATV. I'm your host Tom Anvil Hibberd, and today we're going to go over my AR collection. This is the second part of my Armoury collection videos. The first part went up earlier, and you can find a link to it up there somewhere. As before, we're going to do it in the chronological order in which the real steel models were introduced. This is the newest AR-15 I've got, and it's the CM009E from SEMA. This is a replica of the real steel XM177E1, and for a budget airsoft gun, it's really pretty good. We've just taken it to the range yesterday, in fact, and it did really well in the basically freezing conditions. So the real XM177E1 was effectively developed by Colt for the US Army as a replacement for a submachine gun. As you can see, it's extremely small and compact. There had been some previous short-barreled versions of the AR-15 M16 produced by Colt, but this was the first one that went into any sort of vague mass production, and even then there really weren't that many made. This was the first time that the now classic collapsible sliding stock had been introduced. I'm not going to go massively over the small points of this replica right now, as I'll be doing a review for Taiwan Guns channel, and you can look out for it on there. Next up, in the carry handle gang, we have my SEMA CM009B or M16A1 replica. You'll have seen this earlier this year on the channel. I did an unboxing live stream, and then we also did a gearbox tour, and then I took it to the range and put it through its paces. So it's had quite a lot of coverage. So I've been using this as part of our Brigade Recce impression. So it's distressed, dirty looking, and it's got sniper tape all over it to break up the outline. I've also added this SLR sling. This is an extremely versatile replica. It will do you impressions all the way from the Vietnam War right up to virtually the modern day, depending on what unit you're looking to do. Fantastic for my Cold War 1990s loadouts that I really like. Again, this is completely stock. For the type of games that I'm doing with this, I'm really not worried about performance, and if something goes wrong, then I'll do some upgrades. At the moment, it's running just fine. For the most part, this is a pretty good replica, certainly for the money of an M16A1, and certainly good enough from 5 feet away. Right, next up, this is my GMP Colt M653. The real steel model was the last of the M16A1 carbines, and it was a commercial off-the-shelf carbine. It was never adopted by the US Army, although it did have some export sales to the rest of the world. This model is probably most famous for being the carbine used by the sergeants in platoon, even though that's anachronistic, and they would have probably been using either an M16A1 or an XM177 of some description. These are actually pretty commonly used by special forces and even special operations forces across the world. Certain units in the British Army also use these, and again, so it's a very flexible rifle, very flexible replica that I can use for a variety of loadouts. Internally we have a Titan and some upgrade parts. We've got the Sonic upgrades R-Hot barrel. This is a very good, very well performing AEG. Probably get shots out to 70-75 metres and effective at about 60-65 metres. Very good. If you want more details on this, have a look at my retro carbines video. I'll link that in the description or up there somewhere. So this is my Black Hawk Down movie influenced Colt M727 build. These were effectively M16A2 carbines with a 14.5 inch barrel, and I've put a sleeved OpSync style suppressor on the front end. Again, it's custom built by me from GMP parts. A really nice rifle, again, another proud member of the carry handle gang. 727 was another commercial off-the-shelf rifle and wasn't formally adopted by the US Army. It did get some export sales, and some special operations and special forces units used it. So it's a bit of an amalgamation of the carbines used by the characters Hoot and Bush and Gary Gordon in the movie. Internally, some quite nice parts: high torque motor, high speed gears, upgrade barrel. Not as nice as a 653, but certainly a really nice, accurate replica. Okay, next up, my GMP Colt M733. This is most iconic for being used in the movie Heat by Val Kilmer and Robert De Niro. It was also used by some of the characters in Black Hawk Down as well. This is largely completely stock, apart from the Perron optical MOSFET we fitted for a video some time ago. This is quite popular with the smaller, lighter members of my household. I do have some hankerings to put a grenade launcher profile 14.5-inch barrel on this and turn it into a Delta 723, but I've probably got enough 14.5-inch barreled carbines with carry handles as it is. So if I ever need to do a bank robber loadout for a game, this will be the replica that I turn to. So this is my KWA KM4 CQB. It's currently dressed up as an M4A1 with this outer barrel extension. There's been a few videos on this on the channel when we originally reviewed it, and then when I did an upgrade video with Phil the Power Bucknell. This has MK18 Mod 0 markings on it, engraved by John at JTAC Limited. The M4A1 was the first carbine officially adopted by the US Army since World War II, really. The previous 14.5-inch barreled rifles we've shown you with the carry handles were never formally adopted by the US Army. They were only ever commercial off-the-shelf or experimental items. So this does double duty as a MK18 Mod 0, CQBR, and with the barrel extension, an M4A1, which makes it legitimate for loadouts from about 1995 onwards, right up to the present day, really, if you ignore some of the markings. It was a KWA KM4. Internally, it's pretty much still virtually stock. It does have a Titan MOSFET and a upgraded barrel. Okay, so this is my go-to skirmish rifle, open day rifle. It's my TM Mark 18 Mod 1, subject of many videos on the channel and probably our most popular series. I've currently got it set up in its night fighting mode for when I was reviewing the Psionics and the setup video. This is probably the replica I use the most. It sort of has that perfect balance for me of immersion and performance and reliability. Love it to bits, absolutely fantastic. And it probably is my best GNU. So we have a Prometheus barrel, flat hop, Lonex and Prometheus parts in the gearbox, and a Titan recoil MOSFET. Really good, fun, immersive replica to use. Right, this is my GHK based L119A2 UKSF rifle. So gas blowback, and built up to look like the rifles used by the SAS and SPS in British service. So there's a couple of episodes on this if you want to know more, and I cover the history, the various parts and the modifications I made to make this a pretty accurate replica, including the several days I spent with Milliput doing some of the modifications to make it look more like a monolithic upper. Inside the receivers, stock GHK. I do have a maple leaf barrel and a maple leaf hop, as the original hop unit cracked during testing because of double feeds. Hopefully we'll get to the range at some point and show you the performance and how it works. Big fan of this. I use this at the Descent Milsim. It's a very different experience running a gas blowback rifle with 30 BBs in the magazines than it is running an AEG. You just have to be more precise and pick your shots and choose your engagements much more wisely. But every shot you fire is much more rewarding. Last up, but certainly not least, is my GMP based M4A1 ERGI. ERGI stands for Upper Receiver Group Improved. This was adopted by USASOC, which is basically the US Green Berets, fairly recently, and is the latest incarnation of the M4A1 carbine in use by American servicemen. It features the Geisley Mark 16 rail. I've recently rebuilt it onto this GMP lower because it had the correct trademarks. So I built this up as a custom gun myself from parts. So we have a Geisley Mark 16 rail, a 14.5-inch mid-length gas system, licensed barrel from Madball, licensed from Daniel Defence, Geisley ACH style charging handle. We have the Surefire 556 suppressor over a 4-prong war comp. So a pretty accurate replica, even down to the correct profile barrel and correctly licensed barrel. Just to use it in a game, I'd potentially put it on the 653's lower and use the 653's barrel. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this tour of my AR-15 collection. Coming up in a few weeks' time, I'll do the rest of it, so my pistols and my stuff which doesn't fall into a wider category. If you've liked what you watched, please consider joining our Patreon scheme. Helps keep this channel as independent as possible. I'd like to thank all of my patrons. If you can't commit to a regular contribution, why not buy a t-shirt from our Teespring store? And the links to both of those are down below. But most importantly, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.